Welcome to Politics for Patriots. Here's your host, the eviscerator of progressive nonsense, the executioner of imbecility, and the grim reaper of BS, Eddie Zipper.
Welcome to episode 75 of the Politics for Patriots podcast. If you haven't yet, I must implore you to please download the show on iTunes, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, every time you subscribe to a conservative podcast, a liberal somewhere sheds a tear. Are you crying? You've probably already heard that this week, Joe Biden has officially entered the 2020 Democratic primary.
Did you just smell my hair?
And in truly classic Joe Biden style, he is already racking up a huge gaffe toll. Immediately after he announced via a video, President Obama declined to endorse him, even though Biden was Obama's vice president for 8 years. So a reporter asked Biden about the impact of not having President Obama's endorsement. And here's what Joe Biden said.
I asked President Obama not to endorse, and he doesn't want to. Whoever wins this nomination should win it on their own merits.
Yeah, that's it. I asked Obama not to endorse me.
Sure, Jan.
It's all part of his master plan to make winning the nomination much more difficult. It's like a quarterback going, you know what, I asked the offensive line not to block for me. If I'm going to be a great quarterback, I want to do it on my own merit. And I can only presume that last night at the NFL draft, Drew Lock asked all the NFL teams not to pick him in the first round. Right? It reminds me of when I was a kid and we would play kickball at recess and I'd ask to be picked last. Because that's how things work. It's like Pee Wee Herman crashing his bike.
I meant to do that.
Shout out to Cuffy on Twitter who came up with that. That guy is a great follow, at CUFFYMEH. The guy is hilarious. Follow him on Twitter. That drop was his idea. All right, so Joe Biden is currently polling number one out of the 837 Democrats currently running for the nomination. But, spoiler alert, he is not going to win. His entire advantage right now is a name recognition advantage, and the other candidates are going to catch him on that because their name recognition is going to start going up every day, especially once we actually get into the race. It hasn't even started yet. Also, there is an enthusiasm gap that he is not going to be able to overcome. So what I'm going to do, I've been thinking about all the reasons Joe Biden is definitely going to lose this race. So today I'm going to share with you 11 reasons that Joe Biden will lose the nomination. It looks a lot like something I've seen before. If you go back to April of 2015, Republicans had a packed primary going on, just like the Democrats do now, only slightly less packed. This Democratic primary, there's over 20 people in it now. It's insane. All right, so if you look at the Republican equivalent from 2016, who was leading the pack in April of 2015? Who was polling in first place? Do you remember who it was? It was Jeb Bush.
Please clap.
The nomination was actually his to lose. And that is the one thing he really succeeded at, was losing that nomination. You probably don't even remember this anymore, but I think he was actually center podium at the first debate. And then, of course, Trump took him out. He moved closer and closer to the very end. All right, a lot of the forces that took down Jeb Bush are going to take down Joe Biden as well. All right, so here are the 11 reasons that Joe Biden is not going to win the Democratic nomination. Reason number one, the far left does not like him. They despise him. The base of the Democratic Party does not want Joe Biden to be president, and they are going to pound on him for a year. The people who do want Biden to win are far less vocal than the people who don't want Biden to win, because he is the front runner. He's going to have to constantly absorb and deflect attacks from the far left while simultaneously trying to sell himself to those exact same people who are attacking him. That is an astoundingly difficult task, and it requires strengths that Joe Biden simply does not possess. I mean, we've already seen the left cause him a huge headache of a news cycle, right? The lady who wants Bernie Sanders to be president came out and accused Biden of inappropriately touching her.
Did you just smell my hair?
But the same lady did not have any desire to go all over TV and trash Joe Biden until he became a political obstacle for her. And then he flubbed his response to that huge news cycle. First, he released a video saying, "This is very serious and very important. Oh my gosh, this is just the most important thing there ever was, because hashtag Me Too and all that stuff." You remember? I'm going to pretend this isn't a political attack, and I'm just going to treat it super seriously, like it matters so much. Then the next day, he was out in public making jokes about it. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't concern me. I know that it's just a 100% political attack. But why is he so tone deaf? Right? These attacks aren't going to cease until Biden's polling numbers flatline. And if he can't handle it right, if he's going to be tone deaf about it, then they are going to hurt him way more than if he's consistent. Reason number 2, Joe Biden is running an old school campaign. Right? There's a group of politicians out there who believe that cultural elitism wins elections and that political elitism wins elections. They think things matter like endorsements from other politicians. Oh my gosh, that senator endorsed you? That is so important. They think that newspaper endorsements matter. That, oh my gosh, the Arizona Sun Current has endorsed it. Oh, this is a big one because in nobody cares about that. Like literally nobody. If you think stuff like that matters, it's like going into the Natural History Museum and thinking that you're at Jurassic Park. Right? The tour guide is like, "And this is the Tyrannosaurus." And you're like, "What do y'all feed it?" And the tour guide is like, "Nothing, because it's extinct as f***." The country club campaign is extinct. I read somewhere, this is such a good example. I read somewhere that the McCain family is endorsing Joe Biden. Okay, great for them. That's fantastic. They can endorse anybody they want. That will not gain Joe Biden one single vote. Not one. You know, they may have some resources that will help him a little, but the costs tremendously outweigh the benefits. Neoconservatism is not going to bring in the voters that Biden needs on the left. It's going to enrage them. It's going to be fuel for leftist groups like Justice Democrats who just despise Biden and are already attacking him as much as they can on social media. Biden has 100% name recognition and has been part of American politics for the better part of a century, and AOC has more Twitter followers than he does. Think about that for a minute. Right? Bernie has almost 3 times as many. In short, Biden is running a top-down campaign. It starts with the elites, and your hope is that it trickles down to the common people, right? Oh, a newspaper endorses you, and now the people who read that newspaper are going to like you. Or a senator endorses you, and now the people who voted for that senator are going to like you. That is a dinosaur bones in a museum campaign. That is paleo campaigning. In 2019, social media allows you to do the opposite, to run a bottom-up campaign. That's the Trump model. Trump is the pioneer of it. Does he get it 100% right? No. But he is the pioneer of it. The Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez model, it's the same thing that she did. Bottom-up campaigning. And who did she beat? a top-down campaigner. Ooh, he was so important in the Democratic Party. He had a big special position, and people don't care about that. Or if you want an example of somebody who follows the same model right now and is really perfecting it, Dan Crenshaw. Right? He has an excellent social media guy. It's more slow and steady than what President Trump does. But like I said, President Trump was the pioneer. Right? Dan Crenshaw is an example of somebody who is perfecting that social media model. Or the bottom-up campaign. Now, Biden had the resources and the name recognition to be able to do that, but he just didn't do it. He's been neglecting all of that for years. I don't know who runs his social media campaign, but he tweeted his announcement video as a YouTube link instead of a direct upload. That is such a tremendous social media, like Twitter rookie mistake. It sounds small, but it's really huge. If I were running for office, my number one hire would be a social media whiz. Bottom-up campaigning. Bottom-up. That is how it works now. It does not work top-down anymore. Top-down is dinosaur bones in a museum. Bottom-up is Jurassic Park. But these people, these elites inside the DC bubble, especially somebody who has been in it for as long as Joe Biden, he just has no idea that the campaigning paradigm has shifted. He believes you still do it the old way. Right? It's the old dog's new tricks thing. He doesn't believe that it's possible for power brokering to change from the way it has existed all his life and all of his career. But he will find out soon, I guarantee it. Reason number 3, one of the major drawbacks of having a very, very long public career the way Joe Biden has, is that you just might find yourself on the wrong side of an important issue. Right? People always write articles, if you disagree with me, you're going to be on the wrong side of history. That's pretty much just a dumb threat. But there are issues where today, 100% of people are going to say, hey, buddy, you were on the wrong side of that one. All right, so supposedly, Barack Obama chose Joe Biden to give his campaign foreign policy cred. But that's really weird given that Biden's foreign policy record is pretty much the worst it could possibly be. Right? If you look at the Obama administration that he was a big part of, right? He was supposedly the big foreign policy guy in that administration. That was why he was brought on board. Obama's foreign policy is just wall-to-wall, terrible, feckless crap. It's the worst. The Obama foreign policy was basically that America should be the giving tree. And if another country wants our leaves, we give them our leaves. And if another country wants our branches, we give them our branches. And when another country wants our trunk, we give them our trunk until we are just a stump in the ground. That's Obama foreign policy. The giving tree doctrine. I mean, if you look back at all of it, I think trading 5 terrorists for 1 American deserter, right? You remember the Bo Bergdahl deal? I think that is emblematic of the Obama foreign policy as a whole. That is the giving tree doctrine. You give up a ton and you get back nothing in return. That's exactly what happened with the Iran deal. Oh, here's a plane full of cash, and we're going to lift sanctions so you can make a ton of money flooding the market with Iranian oil. But in exchange, you have to promise to pause your nuclear weapons program for a few years, but wink, wink, the language of the deal makes it almost impossible for us to ensure that you are actually holding up your end of it. But we totally trust you to do it, though, because you're Iran. You're not going to lie. You're not going to cheat. But no, it's not that they were naive and didn't think Iran would lie or cheat. It was that they didn't care. They wanted to present it like, oh, look what we did, when they really did nothing. All right, what else? He pulled the troops out of Iraq, which left the power vacuum that ISIS ended up filling. If you want to look like you're on the right side of history, you want to be against Bush's Iraq war and also against pulling the troops out to allow the proliferation of ISIS. But Biden was for the war and then also for pulling the troops out of it. That's wrong on both sides. Like, there's no side of the Iraq war that he's not wrong on. It's really gross. Don't be all for committing the United States to a war, and then the second it becomes unpopular, you desert your position. That is pathetic. I mean, that's what separates Joe Biden from the neoconservatives, right? They were for the war just like him, but at least they had the guts to continue to be for it. They didn't just jump ship and be like, oh, pull the troops out. We don't care what happens. We don't care about the consequences. All right, let's see. Obama made a terrible non-proliferation deal with North Korea. I mean, at least Trump negotiated by applying massive pressure to North Korea by working with Xi Jinping to strangle them with sanctions. Obama foreign policy was just disaster after disaster. Nobody respected him. You remember China didn't even give him stairs for his plane. Raul Castro didn't even meet him at the airport. All right, Obama did one good thing. He ordered the raid that got Osama bin Laden. That was the one good thing. And guess what? Biden was against that. Obama asked, well, Joe, what do you think? He probably with 5 ums in it. Joe, what do you, think? And Biden said, Mr. President, my suggestion is don't go. I mean, good grief. Even Obama and Hillary got that one right. But not Joe. No, he is constitutionally incapable of getting anything right on the foreign policy front. Robert Gates, who was Obama's first defense secretary, said Biden has been on the wrong side of nearly every foreign policy and national security issue over the last 4 decades. You gonna sleep tight with him in the White House? In his defense, I will mention that he was against the disastrous overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, which created yet another power vacuum. But that doesn't do much for a long, terrible 50 years of being wrong. All right, reason number 4, identity politics. Oh, it is not a great time to be a cisgendered white male in the Democratic Party. A ton of the party deeply embraces identity politics. So a lot of these white men in the race are trying to have their cake and eat it too. They want to please these people, but they want to be in charge and to give themselves more power. So they'd say, I promise to pick a woman as vice president. That's been a popular refrain so far. Somebody started a rumor from the Biden campaign that Biden was going to pick Stacey Abrams to be his running mate. That's obviously an identity politics ploy, as Stacey Abrams is a person who has accomplished nothing except losing a race in Georgia. Eric Swalwell has been out there on Twitter apologizing for his white privilege. Oh, I understand that I have white privilege and that other bit. If you believe that, get out of the race, Eric. You can't have it both ways. You can't be like, hey, we got to get rid of this cisgender straight white male power structure, man. And the only way we can do that is to elect me, a cisgender straight white male, to be president. What? That doesn't make any sense. You can't have it both ways. Get out of the race if you believe that. All right, Biden is anti-zeitgeist in the Democratic Party. It's very anti-establishment right now, and he's been part of the establishment for most of our entire lives. Jeb Bush was anti-zeitgeist when the party had never been more anti-establishment, never been more anti-Bush. All of a sudden, Jeb comes along and he's like, hey, you know what we need? Another Bush. No, nobody thinks that. Like, Jeb thinks that, and his family thinks that, and like the other people at his country club think that, and that's it. Right? There were 17 candidates in that race, and Jeb Bush was literally my 17th favorite. And he was a distant last. It's like if you ranked your favorite Marvel movies from best to worst, you'd have the Hulk last, but you'd want to explain that it wasn't a hard choice. It's like the whole list, and then my 20th favorite is Thor 2, and then every movie ever made, and then the Hulk. All right, so that's how far Jeb Bush was at the bottom of my list. I swear I'd have voted for the Democrat over Jeb Bush. All right, what you're going to hear from Democrats in this race are the words like fresh, change, different, new. These are all words that almost exclusively harm Joe Biden. I mean, some fit that category better than others, but really Joe Biden is the only one that is just anathema to all of those things. All right, reason number 5. Despite what the media may tell you, Joe Biden is just not good at politics. He rarely says the right thing.
In Delaware, the largest growth in population is Indian Americans moving from India. You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent.
Well, I'm sure he's just joking.
I'm not joking.
That's just one out of a million boneheaded mistakes that he's made, because he makes boneheaded mistakes all the time. He mixes up his messaging. He goes too far. Sometimes he goes not far enough. He's just really not a talented politician at all. He's Ty Detmer. Do you know who Ty Detmer is? He won the Heisman Trophy in college and then was a career backup quarterback in the NFL. He had a long career, but just always the backup quarterback forever. Joe Biden is a career backup quarterback. He's a backup singer. He's an extra on a movie set. Get that winning smile on camera, but for God's sakes, don't give him any lines. If you go to a restaurant and order a steak, he is the salad they bring out that you didn't even want. It just automatically comes with the steak. Reason number 6, he's the front runner. That's like the worst thing that you can be, especially in a field this crowded. 20 other people running for president now have one primary objective: take out Joe Biden. And it's going to be easy, and it's going to happen fast. Reason number 7, he is low energy Joe. Just like Jeb. Did you see him on The View? He really is Sleepy Joe, which is what the president nicknamed him. And he's just started, and already he just seems drained. I mean, how low energy do you think he'll be 4 months from now? He's only 2 days in. He already looks exhausted. Reason number 8. The size of the field is his biggest obstacle. Somebody is going to win with a plurality. That changes all the rules. That makes the enthused base of the party the deciders. All by themselves. When they get on the same page, they're going to pick whoever they want. Probably Socialist Bernie, since he has the most free stuff up for grabs. All right, reason number 9. After the party did everything it could to push Hillary over the finish line in the last primary, all the Bernie supporters did what? They went into full tantrum mode. They went ballistic over it. They were insane. They were so mad, and probably mostly rightfully so. And the Democrats, desperate to pacify them, decided to reform the process. Now there are tons of debates. Now there are no superdelegate votes on the first ballot. When they did that, they tipped the scales against Joe Biden. And the number of debates, that is just bad news for Biden. It's bad news for him trying to compete in a party that he no longer fits into. Which is a compliment for Joe, by the way. But it's a party that's not about policies or anything like that anymore.
It's all about feelings and celebrating differences.
All right, reason number 10, Biden has a Ukraine scandal brewing. It is still relatively off the radar, but it could blow up at any time. He was part of the Obama administration, And he's out there saying, oh, there were 0 scandals ever in the Obama administration, which is a line that Obama likes to say. They've been using it for years. Like, if you just say there were no scandals, then suddenly none of the scandals exist. All right, the IG and maybe the Department of Justice are investigating the Obama administration right now, and they're spying on the Trump campaign. That's a scandal that could explode at any time, just like the Ukraine scandal. It could just blow up. Any piece of breaking news could bring it to the forefront and have it all over the media. After the Hillary Clinton email scandal crushed her in 2016, do you think Democrats are going to be aching to put up a nominee who could possibly be involved in the same type of scandals and the same kind of terrible press coverage? I am guessing no. And don't think for a second that the media is out to protect Joe Biden, because maybe a few of them are, but mostly, I mean, if you saw that news cycle where he was in trouble for the bad touching...
Did you just smell my hair?
Then you know there are plenty in the mainstream media who are out to get him. He is as vulnerable right now running against more leftist Democrats. He's more vulnerable than at any other time, because this is the only time the media is really going to want to get him. Once you hit that general election, if Biden were to be in it, which he won't be, but if he were, the media would protect him 100%. But right now, he's vulnerable. All right, reason number 11, Iowa and New Hampshire are where promising candidacies go to die. Bernie is strong in both of those places, which means Joe could very well, even if he maintains his lead for a solid year, which I do not believe will happen, he could very well stall right out of the gates, which would be totally detrimental. You got to do good in Iowa and New Hampshire. All right, that's all I got for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you haven't yet left a review on iTunes or subscribed on iTunes, please do both of those things. I would really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, please download older episodes on my website, www.eddiezipperer.com. That's it for today. I'm out of here.
It's all about feelings and celebrating differences.
You just listened to Politics for Patriots with Eddie Zipper. Email the show at patriots@eddiezipper.com and please subscribe.